we'll hear more about their experiences implementing EA practices and how they use the tool to provide continuous business transformation for their organisations. So just about a little bit about Kapish. So who are we? Some of you might not be familiar with the Kapish name. So Kapish is part of the Citadel Group, and Citadel is a global software company that provides services to many industry sectors, including government, health, defence and education. And Kapish is the LeanIX partner for the APAC region, and that's been since 2018. So Kapish Enterprise Architecture also provides professional services that support and implement the embedding of LeanIX, along with additional offerings such as enterprise architecture as a service, roadmap development, EA maturity assessments, just to name a few. So if we flick over to our next slide, we can see here some of the industry leaders who trust LeanIX, that are using LeanIX. And you'll see we've got in our centre today our education customers, and we've got 5 universities that are currently using LeanIX across APAC, and we've also got our New South Wales Department of Education that are joining us today as well. So you can see some of our other LeanIX customers that are some of the retail giants that are using the platform. We've got banking and superannuation, along with federal, state and local government as well, just to name a few. So this is a look at the LeanIX continuous transformation platform, how that helps basically organise your IT structure and provides that one single source of truth. So LeanIX is a full SaaS product. It is ISO 27001 certified and is hosted in the Microsoft Azure Centre in Sydney. There are 3 different LeanIX products across the top here. So we've got the SaaS management platform, the enterprise architecture management and the value stream management. And then within the EAM product, we've got 3 modules that make that up. So we've got the application portfolio management, technology risk management, and then a business transformation management module. LeanIX can provide many reports to address the typical stakeholder questions that are being asked of you from both an IT focus and a business focus. And you can see here some of the great visuals that are here that are really easy to consume. It means with the LeanIX licensing model, it is unlimited users. So it really facilitates collaboration across the organisation, connects the application owner or the subject matter expert to the information and makes it easier to maintain and keep it up to date. The next slide, we're looking at our LeanIX meta model here. So look, it is lean by design, but it is also highly configurable. So it's very simple to add attributes, relationships, tags, hierarchies, etc. to the meta model. And the meta model is very application centric, that sits in the centre here, but you can see if we look down around it, we've got fact sheets that support that application. So we're starting down the bottom at our technical architecture stack, up to application and data architecture, up to business architecture where we're mapping it to our business capabilities, and then up to strategy and transformation where we can work towards projects that we're delivering. This is a quick look at an example of the Cordate value chain within LeanIX. So LeanIX can establish an EA practice modelled on the Cordate higher education reference model. So you can use the capability maps and the value streams to align your IT with your business objectives. Once again, providing that single source of truth for information on your business, capabilities, the maturity and the application fitness for that. So that's a very quick overview of LeanIX. It's obviously very high level, but what we're going to do now is I'm going to hand across to Craig Stanley, who is our Head of Consulting and Kapish Architecture, and he's going to introduce our panellists for you today, and we can hear directly from them. So over to you, Craig.
That's great. Thanks, Rachel. I was just looking for all of our panellists in the audience, but we'll see how we go as we get along. Henry, if you could spotlight people as they're identified. But first up, I wanted to introduce Matt Foy, who's the Group Director of Enterprise Architecture within the New South Wales Department of Education. We've also joined by University Tasmania representatives, including Christine Bailey, who's a Senior Application Support Analyst, and Stephen Green, Data Architect from the University University of Tasmania as well. So thank you to our panelists for joining us today. So the format we've got is I've just got a range of questions that cover off a variety of the elements that generally people seem to be interested in from an enterprise architecture perspective, but also we want to look at that from a higher education lens. So I might start with the first question, and Christine, I might actually, ladies first, direct this one towards you first up, but everyone else can then respond in turn. And the first question is around sort of why do you see enterprise architecture so important for universities and other sort of education sector organisations more broadly?
Yeah, we're missing our enterprise architect here, I have to say, who probably would answer this the best. But from my perspective, I work within enterprise business services within the University of Tasmania, and we have, a real mix of centralised and decentralised processes and systems, and I think probably everyone in the room would agree that, universities are very, very complex organisations. And for me, but being new to enterprise architecture actually, is I've really appreciated LeanIX bringing some structure to this very complex landscape and being able to start to map out, how a university fits together and what our systems, what are the integrations, our underlying technologies, and then applying a layer of, what are our objectives for the university and what projects are running at the moment, and how do these things intersect so that, we can work smartly together. So it's, I see this being a very collaborative opportunity too. When you bring all of those different pieces of work that are going on in the university, and trying to bring them into this single tool that has a common language and a visualization that everybody can understand. So that's how I see, enterprise architecture really working for the university. So
that sort of shared view, common objectives, aligning that actual effort to the strategic goals of the organisation.
That's right.
Thanks, Christine. That's great. And Matt, you come from a different perspective there, from a government department covering off obviously education, and in your role as the group director of enterprise architecture, you've probably got a higher level view. What do you see the value of EA being?
Yeah, look, for us, we're big, and I guess mapping all the dependencies, all the applications, all the technologies, has been a real challenge for us. We, I guess, are quite immature as an enterprise architecture practice, and therefore we're probably in our infancy in actually getting our head around all of those moving parts, all of the dependencies, all the technologies in use. We've had a real focus over the last 12 months of really understanding our technology landscape. And I guess for us, we need to really be a little more proactive. So the driver really, from my perspective, is get on the front foot with service lifecycle activities and all of those programs that take a long time in education. It takes us a long time to actually move from an idea of or an activity for, let's say, a service lifecycle activity to actually being able to do that. So really, it's important for us to give the business, to give the service owners a clear vision up front and plenty of time to map out their activities in accordance with our target state architectures, the future directions and strategies that we want to go as a department. So that's probably the importance for us in particular. It really does relate back to the size and scale that we need to deal with, the time it takes to actually introduce changes within our environment, and getting on the front foot with informing the business, aligning with the strategy and the technology life cycles.
So future planning, being able to connect with the strategic goals of the organisation, but also communicate that out beyond your team and have everyone sort of visualising the overall intent.
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess that also ties in. We've got certain procurement guidelines that we need to run by, so it's very important that we have that really clear picture and alignment going forward. Because as a government body, we're spending public money, so we need to be really accountable for that. So having a clear picture on that definitely is a requirement for us.
Yeah, thank you. And it's probably good for the audience to acknowledge that so where University of Tasmania have been utilising LeanIX as part of their EA practice for, I think we're into a couple of years now. From the New South Wales Department of Education, it's probably a couple of months into the journey with LeanIX support. So different insights, but all connected to the same, I think, overall goal. And Stephen, you'll have a data lens, I suspect. Can you share your thoughts on the value of EA?
I think the biggest thing for the university is just the basics of actually documenting what they actually have at the moment, right? A lot of information is in various people's heads, and the great thing about LeanIX is pulling it all together into a single place, so everyone can see it. So even just having a list of applications we ran, we didn't have any of that to start with, and just pulling that together, the current state, was very important. I've done most of the documentation and in LeanIX of the interfaces. So we've got about 500 or 600 interfaces in there, and just showing those on the circle map and the complexity of the systems actually helps senior guys, for sure, look at the systems and understand how complex they are, which is really important. Even if we're not really doing a whole lot of planning strategic work at this stage, but just understanding the landscape's been very, very useful.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's some interesting steps towards getting that sort of project impacts. The startup of projects, I think Matt sort of spoke around those initiatives and how they're drawing. But from your perspective, Stephen, it's about understanding what the overall sort of, when you pull the thread of a new project, is going to be.
For sure, and it certainly helps with that, right? Understanding the complexities involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because often systems are way more complex than are perceived by most people, right? I think there's a couple of interfaces, and we'll just move it to the cloud, and they discover there's 100 involved, and they're running daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and then there's how many other systems are involved, right? It just really explodes that, and it shows that really well in LeanIX.
Yep, fantastic. I might head back to you, Matt. You're probably, this next question is probably freshest in your mind, and it's really, what were the key drivers when selecting an EA tool? So can you talk through that part of the journey?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the reasons we actually started down the journey of looking at an EA tool, and it's really because we had disparate information sources. As Steve just mentioned, it's in people's heads, it's in various documents. When I came into the role, which was about 13 months ago now, 14 months ago, I struggled to find information about our environment. It existed, but it existed in umpteen number of places. So taking the approach of seeing how we could better organise ourselves, I guess. And at the time, we're also going through very much a target state architecture, future strategy kind of process within the department as well. So defining our digital strategy for the coming 5 to 10 years. So it was a really timely driver for us to actually get control of the data that we need to know to plan our path ahead. When I looked at the options out there, and then we did an assessment of a number of options, it was important for us to look at the maturity level of our architecture practice. It's no point in having the bee's knees if you don't know how to use it. So when we looked across the landscape, had demonstrations with a number of platforms, LeanIX was by far the easiest for our maturity level to adopt. Just the user interface and everything, we all said after the demonstration, this is the one. This is where we think we'll be able to get a lot more value a lot sooner than some of the other platforms that we looked at, and it just matched the maturity of our practice.
So that ease of access, outcomes focus, the ability to, in your case, sort of connected with that the strategic plan, delivering the outcomes and measuring them as you go along.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's also, given that we are only, I think, 7 or 8 weeks into the journey, some of the insights that we're already starting to see, just some of those things as we build the information out, it's been very interesting, and I'm looking forward to unleashing, I guess, the full power of what I think we can realise from the tool. So,
yep, fantastic. Yep, no, it's an early stage, and yeah, it's good to get those insights. Stephen, I might divert back to yourself for yeah, if you recall the process.
Well, Richard, unfortunately, Richard's not here, but he was involved in that. But it's a similar experience, I believe. We didn't want anything that was too detailed and too complex that people wouldn't understand, and took ages to get your information in there and to get reports out. And I think we wanted to be able to get some information in quickly, and have something to show as quickly as possible within a month or two, right? Which we did. We got the applications. We got a few hundred applications loaded up in a short time, and then we're able to produce reports against that. And I know Richard's worked on quite a few different tools. He did the review of LeanIX with Richard Eccles. And I believe the simplicity of use was actually, and the simplicity of the tool, and similarly fitting in with the current state of the enterprise architecture within UTAS was important, right? And LeanIX fitted the bill there. I just think it was simpler, easier, faster to get reports up, faster to get data in, and easy to understand, right? It's quite a user-friendly environment. Thanks, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Christine?
Not at all. Well done.
Thank you, Stephen and Christine. So what I might actually do then, Christine, I'll load you up with the next question I've got here, which is around just the immediate benefits. What was your sense, and what did you realise quickly with the implementation of a tool like LeanIX?
Yeah, certainly. Like I think we've already sort of said that, you know, how quickly you could start to get like you didn't need to be technical. You didn't need to have someone sitting next to you to guide you and understand a particular ecosystem and what was involved. So the immediate benefits, you know, are that, you know, we did a lot of imports of our key applications. Steve worked on the majority of the integrations, and you know, and anyone could understand and see what our current state is. And so then when people started to come to us to actually ask for assistance with particular problems, you know, one example is we had a very large stakeholder group who wanted to review all of the systems involved in our student journey. And, you know, we were able to very quickly, and that was at the very beginning of our journey, is to utilise LeanIX, you know, put a survey out there. I mean, the surveys could be better, and there's a lot of work being done on them, I believe, at the moment. But we could still use that tool to gather a lot of data that we believed we needed, get them to rate the applications, and then be able to play that back to the group so that they, you know, then they could go away and make some informed decisions around what they were seeing. So those, you know, it was fabulous to use it in those kind of settings. And we've also, you know, realised that there's quite a lot of flexibility to LeanIX. So you may look at it and focus on your applications and integrations, and you know, like we've uncovered that we are actually, you know, there's so much manual handling involved, so they're not necessarily automated interfaces. And so there's real opportunity to then look at all of those and see, you know, what are some, where can we improve? Or you could use LeanIX to focus on processes for different areas. So, yeah, I actually really like the tool and the ability to change that focus of you know, what's the issue at hand, and how can we address it, and thereby, you know, looking at a specific area.
So using different visuals, features, surveys and other functionality to be able to engage across the organisation in subtly different ways, but to build up the single sort of knowledge base so that they're all still connected. Is that part of the main
yes,
picture?
I mean, because the way I sort of see it is that, you know, we're going to talk about challenges coming up, and we've certainly, there's plenty of challenges, but we sort of, you know, I feel like we have, you know, built a very good repository that is a bit of a skeleton, and it's incomplete, and but it's actually something to start with. And then when particular business areas have a particular need, we can just take what we have, and it's, you know, usually we need to update it and build on it, but then we can take whatever focus that business area needs. And I think that's the beauty of it. They don't, it's not a prescribed way of using it for every area. It's each time, you know, a particular business area just wants a question answered, and you're able to put those different lenses on it.
Great. Thank you, Christine. And Stephen, would you like to add to that? So the immediate sort of benefits realised?
Sorry, I was on mute there. Yeah, well, just some really simple things. For example, we gathered all entered all the applications into the tool, and we went round and actually found out who the business owner was for each application, which we didn't know, right? So something even as simple as that. So then when there's changes coming, we know who to email and who to contact for particular applications when we're doing work on them, or someone wants to do work on them, etc. So that was an immediate benefit, right? And that was within a short time. I think a couple of months we had that up and running, which didn't exist previously. It was spread across documents and various disparate data sources, so it was very useful.
Perfect. That's great, Stephen. And Matt, you started to touch on this earlier in your previous response, but 7 weeks in, what do you sense at the moment?
Yeah, look, I see a lot of potential. Look, the immediate information or the reporting that we're getting just from I'll say breadcrumbs that we've put in there at the moment is already providing insights. But the main reason we've got it for the application portfolio management capability and our service lifecycle management, and I can see the potential benefits of both of those capabilities from LeanIX are amazing. I'll take a bit of a different tact with the benefits. I actually wanted to mention the way that we're onboarded with the LeanIX platform is really logical, really feels very thorough and very an incremental approach that builds on essentially having no knowledge in the platform, and bit by bit you build your capability. That to me is a benefit from my team anyway, from a maturity perspective, because it's slowly introducing the concepts of what LeanIX and the capabilities of what LeanIX can provide into the team. It's not just all kind of lumped, here you go, this is how you do it all at once. It's very much a stage process. So that to me is a real benefit from an onboarding perspective, because it does provide really solid foundations for the team to work from with the ongoing use of the tool. If I talk to future benefits, I think collaboration is going to be a massive benefit for us. We've got a number of system owners, technical owners, service owners right across the business. The opportunity that we'll have to give them access to this information with LeanIX, I think, is going to be a huge benefit. Everybody's got their own information sources, their own repositories for their applications and services. This will become the new standard that people will operate by within the technology teams for managing their applications. So the ability to provide that out to business owner or to technical owners and service owners, I think, is going to be a huge benefit.
Yeah, probably worth calling out there too. I think, Matt, with your engagement, we've provided you what we call the Jumpstart onboarding process as well, which is a coupling of the LeanIX Customer Success Manager with our LeanIX consultancy service, with our enterprise architect being involved in the process as well. So yeah, we certainly are taking the time to understand where you're trying to be and help you step up through those the maturity curve on the journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. What I might do now, I'm going to switch to some audience questions and see how we go with those. So let's go to Stephen for this one. Actually, I think it's probably in your wheelhouse a little bit, which is the questioner asks, clearly LeanIX is strong as an EA tool, but do we see LeanIX being used in the solution architecture tool as well? And what limit would you put on the sort of the definition and maintenance of the EA architecture? So I know you've dabbled a bit in this space, Stephen. Solution architecture in LeanIX?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why you couldn't use it as a solution architecture tool. I mean, the tool's highly configurable. You can add your own fields in there and even your own fact sheets if you wish. So it depends how you want to actually set that up. But certainly you could use it for solution architecture without a problem. I mean, you take off a sort of little project, you tag those potential groups of applications or IT components, and you could report specifically on those and allow you to plan actually your solution architecture and your future state, right? So I don't see, I see that would actually be quite useful.
Hi,
Thanks,
sorry, this is Vivek. Just to follow up on that, I asked that question. I'm keen to know if in solution architecture, if LeanIX provides the typical palette that's required by solution architects, like sequence diagrams, the ability to drag and drop logical architecture building blocks from the enterprise space, to be able to draw a system context diagram. There are kind of architecture views that solution architects use that often enterprise architects don't use. So they get into a next level of detail, if you like. And I'm just curious to understand if LeanIX can be used by solution architects in anger, as opposed to it just being a drawing tool, so just some has anybody used it in anger, I guess.
Well, we've used the diagramming tool. The existing diagramming tool is quite difficult to use, but the new one is actually pretty useful, right? So yes, I haven't done a lot of diagrams in that, but you can include fact sheets, etc., in the diagramming tool, and it's fairly comprehensive. So yes, you could use that, but I haven't used it in anger myself to actually create all the documents you would need, all the diagrams you would need around a solution architecture.
Yeah, and I can build on that one as well if you like, Stephen. So with the new next-gen diagramming tool, which is just gone into preview mode at the moment, it's been available for early release for the last probably 6 to 12 months almost. It does enable, to your question, Vivek, the ability to drag objects from the palette onto the diagramming tool. So they're all connected back to the repository. It also provides different types of notations that can be used in the solution space, such as Archimate modeling, such as UML and other BPIN notations and so on. So the diagramming tool does allow for those sort of drill down capabilities. But obviously what our main vision is the connected enterprise. So understanding which projects are being impacted or impacting which applications and what are the types of changes they have within the in the portfolio. But we do have a number of customers that are specifically using the diagramming tool for the solution architecture space as well.
Thank you.
Kristen, I don't know if you've got anything to add on that topic, given where you are at the moment.
No, all good.
All right. I might throw it to you, Christine. I've got another question here. This one's from Milan. Is asking, the IT landscape is constantly evolving. New systems are constantly added, migrated, decommissioned. What's the process that you follow or recommend to keep LeanIX and or an EAM tool up to date? Life cycle of applications.
Well, that's absolutely. So here is where the challenge lies. And we are still trying to find our way in how can we, and basically we've implemented LeanIX, we've done all this work, and we've actually only just gone into BAU and trying to embed it and be part of that space, so that that we're clear on how we're going to keep it up to date, and and who's responsible for what, and we're still struggling with that. There is a lack of clarity around those responsibilities. I've certainly been brought in to support the tool to keep building on the repository, and the approach that we've taken is that I've basically embedded myself in all of those key spaces. So in the program management portfolio, I'm just about to, we sort of got into that space. We're making sure we've just created an introduction to LeanIX for all the new project managers to get them to understand the benefits of using the tool, and also to encourage people to provide information to keep it up to date. Getting people in there though and making changes is actually a bit of a challenge. But like I say, I'm getting very involved in all those key groups, our change management groups, our org structural change groups. That these are all forums that I've now sort of put myself into to keep bringing up LeanIX and basically trying to get that information to keep it up to date. But but in fact trying to involve people in using the tool. And that is still a challenge.
Yeah, and I think what we're finding with a number of our customers is they're using a combination of carrot and stick approaches. Some customers are adding KPIs to their team's measurements to actually allocate 2 hours a week for a few of the BAs to actually actively help build up the repository in the first instance. So sharing the load quite thinly to get the bulk done by the masses. Matt, do you have plans within your organisation to sort of deal with that collaboration and content management?
Yeah, it's timely you asked the question, because we were having a conversation this morning about how we bake the use of LeanIX into the enterprise architecture. It becomes our Bible essentially, and it's what the guys use day in, day out, but also marketing it out to other technical teams that we will eventually want to collaborate on in the platform. We've talked around, do we include it as part of our formalized project governance structure, where one of the tick boxes will actually, to transition to a BAU state, we'd have to have LeanIX updated with the application or service state, or if a new project comes in, we'd have to have LeanIX updated with any new technologies that are involved in that project. We've also looked at it from an architectural governance perspective and baking it into our architectural governance processes as well. So we still haven't landed exactly where we need to just yet, but we've started those conversations, and we'll probably have more conversations as part of our onboarding thing about how other organisations do it as well.
Yep. And I'm wondering, Matt, given the it's more for the university sector, but are you using coordinate reference models at all or anything like that?
Not really. No, we've kind of, I guess that's the flexibility. We've kind of had our architectural domains kind of mapped out in a different way. So we've been able to map how we saw the lay of the land as part of our architectural domains into LeanIX. So not necessarily relying on Coordinate, but kind of building out our own with a bit of guidance and a bit of mix from Coordinate.
Yeah, cool. And probably follow that up with Stephen. What level of sort of coordinate reference models are you including in your LeanIX workspace?
Yes, we loaded them all up, the business capabilities and the data objects, and then we've expanded from there. So we're still in that process. I'm still working with the data objects with the finance, the head of finance. We're going through doing the finance data objects at the moment. Yeah, so we've used that, but the coordinate model's very thin on the ground regarding things like data objects and business capability. So there's quite a bit of work to expand it out to include all the, for example, the data objects you'd want in your LeanIX. And business capability, as far as business capability go, I guess the uni's not very big on using those. The business side haven't really used those at this stage. So we've just gone with the core business capabilities, and we've attached those to some of the applications. And it would be nice to see the business come on board and actually take ownership of those and actually add their own capabilities that they see as useful, because then obviously you can do your planning, your future planning, and discover what applications are all doing the same, using the same business capability. Obviously, for example, CRMs. We've got 7 or 8 CRMs, Christine. Can I just make a comment though earlier, talking about getting the data in there and how we did that? One of the things we've done initially was everyone's very busy, so it's hard to get people involved to actually get data in there. But I organised half an hour meeting with the integration team, and we did that twice a week, 2 half-hour meetings. It might only be 20 minutes, and we just go through a few interfaces at a time. And over the year, we've added 600 interfaces doing that. So those guys could just explain to me what it was, and we'd link the documentation to it within LeanIX. We'd add an owner, the provider and consumer. And so that's how we got our interfaces up there. And how they'll be maintained in the future, we're not really sure about that. But they don't change enormously over time. We'd hope that the integration team would maintain them. But that democratised type of approach, where owners of fact sheets actually update the fact sheets, is what we're sort of ultimately aiming for, right?
Yeah, it's all part of the vision of getting the right stakeholders involved at the right time and motivated to do their piece. I'm seeing a couple of questions in the chat around sort of the CMDB side of things as well. Matt, one of them was directed towards you, so I'll start with you. Do you have a vision for integrating with a CMDB service now or similar?
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually going through a number of big technology platform procurement activities at the moment to kind of standardize. A part of our program of work is to have enterprise-wide platforms and remove duplication. So we're going through, especially in the ESM space, we're looking at that. CRMs, we're looking at integration is a key for that. So yeah, absolutely looking at what we can leverage from an integration perspective with whatever ESM platform we land on, or whatever CRM platform we land on, and other platforms. We've got Aptio as a cost modeling solution. We're looking at the integrations with Aptio to get the cost transparency of our services mapped out as well. So absolutely looking to get a lot of value out of integrations with other platforms.
Yeah, it's probably worth calling out at this stage too, our partnership from a Kapish perspective with Aptio, Signavio, and others. So we obviously support our customers in those sorts of integrations and procuring those solutions as well if they require. Stephen and Christine, on your side, is there any vision to start connecting down to the tech layer through CMDB or otherwise?
I can start that if you like, Steve. With our challenge there is that we are using ServiceNow, and there is an intent on connecting ServiceNow with LeanIX, and I can see on the roadmap there's sort of some improvements there too in what you map and what you bring in. And there the university is actually behind in completing the CMDB and the configuration within ServiceNow. And we're actually, waiting for, that infrastructure and operations side of things to get sorted before we make that connection.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a chicken and egg challenge. Sorry, Steve, do you have some more to add to that?
No, that's the intention. We plan to load ServiceNow CMDB up into LeanIX for the IT components and applications, and it's just a matter of actually when we schedule it in. It's probably late. What are we talking, Christine? Probably next year, late this year, early next year, probably. Certainly intend to do it.
But we should add actually, Stephen, that part of the implementation was initially that we did get an export of all our key assets, and so that we were able to, Stephen brought in all of the IT components and was very quickly able to map those out. So the challenge now, of course, is that much of it is out of date, but yeah, it was certainly very simple to bring it all in.
They're ready to get that refresh going. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, we may make a decision to re-import. Yeah.
Yep. Rachel, how are we going for time? I'm mindful that we're getting close. We've got time for no.
Probably got time for one more, I think.
One more.
Yeah.
Great. And the one I see here is around process, and I'm not sure what background the panelists have on documenting processes in LeanIX. Just to partly answer the question for the questioner, obviously an integration with Signavio is a way we get depth of capability within process models, and that then connects through the process intelligence, mining, and all that sort of thing, and simulation. But probably for yourself, Matt, to start, any vision of connecting the business process side of things, or using LeanIX diagramming for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much part of why we want to go down the EA tool road was single source of truth. So what I'm looking at is LeanIX is going to be a lot of the foundations for that single source of truth. Any integrations or anything we can get around the BPM space, absolutely, we'll be looking at where we can add value to that source of truth. So that is another body of work that we've got going on within the department. It's a department-wide thing that's happening at the moment around the business process management modeling capabilities. So it's definitely something we would like to integrate into LeanIX down the track.
Fantastic. And Stephen, Christine, from your perspective, business process modeling, are you is your organisation undertaking that as part of the EA practice or process practice?
We are looking at it. We've had some major changes starting in the research area, and also we were looking at some data integrity work around our HR systems, and it was actually useful we brought in another data reference model from a UK organisation, and I can't remember which it was. Purely just to be able to identify what we believed was in scope or out of scope. So using it in a very basic manner, but we can see the benefits. And another example is that we're about to, well, people may be aware, we've got a fair bit of organisational change happening at the moment, and there will be a very strong focus around systems and processes. And as those key pieces of work are identified, our intention is to get them straight into LeanIX. So we then just link up, what space are we actually talking about, what applications will be involved, and again, just to be able to play that back to people so they got an appreciation of the complexity that we're talking about when they say we need change here.
Absolutely. And that probably leads into one of the questions which I'll take as a comment at the moment, so the interest wrapping up, but it's around the different architectural viewpoints and stakeholders that LeanIX is able to support. And I think one of the reasons that we've all picked up on LeanIX is because it actually is able to sort of communicate visuals to a wide range of stakeholders. Are there any key stakeholders that you guys are sort of focusing on at this stage? Perhaps, Matt, just in 20 seconds or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, definitely the people that look after the infrastructure side of things, they always want to know about service lifecycle. We don't have a CMDB. We don't have that level of information. We don't have the live feeds that we get through LeanIX or the external vendor components that we have within our environment. So a lot of the operational IT teams are interested in the information, in the reporting that we can give them around service lifecycle.
Perfect. I better throw back to Rachel, but I want to thank the panel, Matt, Christine, Stephen, and in his absence, Richard, for participating in this session today. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time, and thank you, Craig, for facilitating that for us. Quickly, just wanted to share with you some upcoming events that we will be involved with Kapish and LeanIX. So we will be hosting our popular user groups in different states throughout the year as well. So I know some of you have been involved in those last year with us and previous years. So look forward to catching up with you again. But we will be in Sydney, we will be in Brisbane, we will be at the Gold Coast at the Gartner IT Symposium. And LeanIX will be running a Connect Roadshow during that time as well. So we will be popping up in other states during that time in September. So just a couple of dates to put on your calendar there. And we'll be in Melbourne towards the end of the year. Hope you really enjoyed today. Thank you so much for being a great audience and sharing lots of questions for our panel. And if you would like to know more, we'd be really keen to tailor a demo where we can specifically work towards a particular use case that you might be looking to find an outcome for. So please reach out to us. Henry's on the call now. He'd happily organise something for you. But once again, thanks for your time, and we'll share this with you afterwards for you to on-share from here. So thank you, everyone.